All right, welcome guys. Thank you so much for being here. Super stoked about this specific video because this is the first time ever, and I think it's an amazing time to do this. We actually are bringing on this month's speaker to our Zoom call to kind of give a little bit about what he's going to be chatting about. But before I get started on that, kind of jumping the gun here, for those of you who don't know, I'm Drew. Cade's down at the bottom of the screen here, and then we've got our guest speaker. We host a monthly meetup, but Cade, I'll go ahead and pass the torch over to you to kind of give a brief description of the meetup and then make the introduction to Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for those who don't know me, my name's Cade. Andrew and I created NGRN really on a whim, but with the goal to create a group and atmosphere that could come together, and meet other like-minded individuals, specifically in just kind of the business and personal development mindset. And so, Drew, are we going on 2 years now? 2.5 years?
About 2 years, yeah, almost two and a half.
Wow.
Crazy.
So yeah, we've experienced a lot of growth in that time. And so yeah, we're really excited to continue what we kind of started instituting probably halfway through the meetup now of bringing on guest speakers every single month. This is not necessarily a promotional tool. It's more or less just an educational and informational tool to bring, people who are in positions that we would want to be in, that you could kind of talk with and start to network with. And so, with that in mind, I'm honored and privileged to present Dan the Fireman, who's going to be our guest speaker this month. Um, and I'm not even going to talk about Dan's story at all, but Dan, thank you for being here. And if you want to start us off before kind of highlighting what you'll be talking about, what is your story? Just give us a little background as to, your story, how you got to where you're at.
Yeah, well, thanks for the introduction and thanks for the opportunity. My name is Daniel. I go by Dan the Fireman on YouTube, Instagram, social media, all that stuff. But the reason why I'm called Dan the Fireman is I was a firefighter for 11 years prior to making motorcycle safety content on YouTube. And so I was a firefighter EMT for 11 years, Yuma Fire Department, and then Northwest Fire District. And that's what brought me to Tucson area. Currently, I mean, I make a lot of YouTube videos. I make a lot of motorcycle safety stuff. I do a live stream every Thursday and I go over crashes and close calls and I do like the after action review process to kind of explain what happened, how it happened, what we could do better, what we can do, or what they did wrong and how we can mitigate some of that stuff. And it's been very successful just because I think a lot of people they understand the risks, but they don't see the risks, they don't see the problems. And it's my job from my firefighting experience to explain some of the emergency stuff and how to solve those problems. But I was able to build it up into a full-fledged business, basically because I wanted to solve people's problems. And as time went on, people started sharing that they have other problems, they have other things they would like solved, and I just kept serving them. And it just blew up. It was built into a business to where every little thing that I do is in service to them. And with my capabilities, I'm able to solve them. And so throughout this time, I started truly in 2018 doing this, and I realized I needed to continue my education, continue my skill set, because with new problems that they have, I didn't have the exact skill set to do it. So I went out and got it. And so I've taken tactical emergency casualty care classes, became an MSF rider coach, which is those coaches that you see on the weekends teaching people how to ride motorcycles. I've taken multiple classes. I've focused heavily on my own personal and professional development on how to teach and how to present information that is complex into something simple, because it's really hard to teach somebody how to ride a motorcycle on the internet without being in front of them and teaching them. So having to figure that out has really led me to a point where I'm now able to talk about how to market content marketing, and how to teach people certain things that are really hard to teach online.
Yeah, no kidding. Well,
Yeah.
I always thought that was interesting about your story. Could you talk a little bit more as to when you told me you did motorcycle training videos? First and foremost, I didn't think it'd be that like big. I didn't know it was
Yeah.
that big of a draw, which is amazing. But that's a unique like transition from firefighting to I know a lot of firefighters, and that's just an interesting uh next step, if you will, from firefighting into YouTube. Was there a point in firefighting that you said, okay, I'm going to transition into, to this gamut of things, or did it just kind of happen, naturally? Or was that
Uh,
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, that it did kind of happen naturally. I think something that I will be talking about at the meetup is that when you have a mission, you can really just have that behind anything that you do. And so my mission has always been to save lives and serve my community. And that's what I brought from firefighting. And so I started riding motorcycles as a personal hobby, started seeing people crashing on motorcycles in my job as a firefighter, seeing all these different things that people could be doing differently. I just started making a few videos here and there, some content. And when it transitioned fully, I just kept that mission, serve the community, which would now is the motorcycle community, not my local community, and still try to save lives. And so it just kind of naturally grew from that. And I think with any niche, with anything that you do, if you just have a mission, either from prior experience or something that you just feel is your own mission, vision, values, you can do. I mean, if you want to make sourdough bread, I mean, the mission, if really what you want to do is feed people. I mean, you could have been feeding people at a restaurant, you could have been a chef, you could have been whatever, but now you want to get into making YouTube videos. Well, if your mission is to feed people, how can you feed people with video? Well, you can teach them how to cook for themselves. You can show them all the tips and tricks. You can show them all the experience that you've had, but simplify it to a point where somebody that has no idea how to cook for themselves and they're spending tons of money going out, now they can have healthy meals, feel better, have this accomplishment. And so, yeah, whatever your mission is, you can translate it to anything, really.
I
Dang,
love
that's
that.
you.
Yeah, I love that. And I
Yeah.
think, the one thing that's super cool is kind of going back to like that meetup concept, right? It's like the way that you and I met, and then also how, the three of us met as a whole is like you came to this networking event just to hang out, meet some people. And, it really drives down to your core of wanting to help the community, even in a sense of like you offered to speak at our meetup to talk about this skill set that you've mastered and that you've been able to for no other reason other than just giving back and teaching. And I think that again goes back to that mission. And though it's kind of indirect and now not your super focus, I mean, we are so grateful to have you come and speak and talk. I mean, because you were able to build something from nothing to something pretty substantial, and again niche down into something super specific. So it's really in a community that I didn't realize was that big either, as well, to kind of complement what Cade said. So I
Yeah.
really respect that.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's the motorcycle industry is somewhat big, but I did see a hole in there where the only way you can really learn how to ride was from these classes that you'd have to take on the weekends, and not many people have access to it. Even before this, it was like uncles teaching their nephews, their dads teaching daughters, like whoever, their family and friends were teaching people how to ride motorcycles, and they're doing the best they can with the knowledge they have. But there is definitely an opportunity in so many different niches, so many different industries where if people could just share their valuable knowledge that they've built up over time in a package that is easy to understand, I think anybody can really take off in their own way, or just get leads, whatever it is their goal is when it comes to content. And while talking to everybody at these meetups, everyone has been saying it's like I really want to get into video, I really want to get into marketing, I want to make YouTube videos, I want to do this, but they don't know how. And once again, I'm just hanging around everybody, and I see a hole in some gaps of knowledge, and it's like, well, I have that, so might as well talk about it, and maybe somebody will take the leap. It is risky, it is scary, but just like anything new, you're not going to be very good at it at the beginning, but then once you get a little bit more skill set in it, it's a lot of fun. And like I said, I've been able to build a business around it. It's supported my lifestyle. At the same time, I didn't really anticipate that. I was just doing what I always did as a firefighter, is just serving the community.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think I just think to see you in your position, and to know that that is, something that's possible nowadays, like with the internet and YouTube and all like social media. It's freaking amazing, bro. Like it actually blows my freaking mind. Like nowhere before in history was there a time when you could pick up a camera, right? Good or bad quality, who cares? Just pick up a
Mhm.
camera, film yourself talking about something you're passionate about, and then literally create a following and a business from it. Like I mean, I gotta assume it just blows your mind still to this day, Dan, of like, dude, this is what
Yeah.
I do. You know what I mean?
It really does. I'm really grateful. I understand that there's a lot of luck involved. Um, the thing is, I just stuck my nose down and just did the work. I just kept working, working, working. And I finally looked up, and it was years later. And I'm having people that I have been watching me for years, and I have people come up to me in public sometimes saying, "Hey, are you Dan the Fireman? I've been watching you. You helped me get a motorcycle, like, and started riding. Now I'm riding safe." And they just tell me their whole story, and that's something that I never got as a firefighter. I would just show up on scene, do my work. It was their emergency, but I solved their problem, and then I never hear anything from them. And it
Yeah,
goes back to, hey, firefighters and fire departments have that goodwill because of what we did. And so it's really interesting to get that directly to me. And yeah, I never thought I would. I mean, I have like books right here that I just got in, 500 new books that I keep selling out my own stuff, and I don't know, I'm grateful for people that want to support this and then also get some value out of it. I'm just sharing the knowledge that I currently have. There's nothing special about it. It's just that I choose not to keep it to myself. And I think a
right.
lot of people can do that. They could just share.
That is awesome. So did you have motorcycle experience before being a firefighter, like growing up? Did you ride bikes growing up, or was it like a hobby you took on
Yeah, I,
later?
I had no prior experience. I mean, riding bicycles my whole life. I've always loved doing that. I would ride long distance on like a street bike here and there. And long distance would be like 20, 30 miles. It's not like some of the Tour de Tucson people. But I understood, how to use a clutch. I drove fire trucks and ambulances and all that stuff. But in November 2011 is when I started riding. And I was a firefighter from '07 to 18. And so I just took it up as a hobby, and I loved video. So I mean, I got the very first GoPro. I've always loved making stuff. And back in the day when I was a kid, when Jackass and all that stuff was very popular, I would go out with my buddies, and I'd have this old like micro VHS or whatever it is back in the day, and I would film. I would be the camera guy and participate. So I think that kind of led into prior to YouTube, where I'm now doing that with better quality equipment.
Yeah.
And so I just started filming when I was riding, and then it just took off slowly, very slowly. And that's something I'm going to talk a little bit about during the meetup, where, yeah, it's a slow process. You find what you're good at, you find what the audience likes, and you just double down on what works, what doesn't, just like an after action review of what I do for motorcycle crashes. And it just, yeah, just motorcycling is fun, but I really like teaching the rider. That's the main thing, is teaching people how to learn.
Well, I gotta say, I've watched your stuff and I love the setup you have. Especially the ones where you're like reviewing riders.
Mhm.
And then you have your different like code yellow or code reds, and
Yeah.
it's catchy, dude. Like, and it's even someone, I don't have a motorcycle, but like when I even driving a car, it even helps me to realize like, holy crap, I even see that when I'm driving just a regular car, not even a motorcycle too. So it's super helpful. So I could definitely see the appeal if I, had a motorcycle on top
I
of it.
appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of the idea. That's kind of the idea. Make it generalized, easy information to digest, even if you're driving a car and then all of a sudden you want to ride a motorcycle. And you're like, oh, I already know quite a bit, just not know how to function with the motorcycle. And I also teach some of that stuff too.
Yeah. Well, no, it's great because it's stuff like, and you see it in those videos. The crashes and everything happen so fast. There's no way you can be in a position to like catch yourself or get out the way. Like there's no way. It's
Hmm.
impossible. So you have to be looking out for that stuff constantly. So I think it's great. I think it's freaking awesome. So you definitely, there's no question as to why you're successful as you are, because it makes sense. Um,
Appreciate it.
Dan, maybe talk a little bit about, don't give away everything you're going to be talking about at this month's meetup, but maybe just talk about a few key pointers that you're excited to be discussing this
Okay.
month.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, I'm still refining the presentation. I get about 30 minutes. So my first draft of it was about 45 minutes. So I've been able to knock it down a little bit. But the main points here that I want to talk about is kind of like why content marketing is important, what you can do to start, and then maybe some general ideas and maybe a Q&A at the end. But I mean, content marketing, it's a fancy term. I didn't know that's what I was doing for the longest time. I thought I was just sharing my information, building trust. I was talking to the camera just like if I was talking to myself when I first started learning, basically journaling out in the open. And so, content marketing, I mean, it's an approach of creating content online where you're sharing your knowledge, and that builds trust. Just like if you're talking to a friend and it's like they want to get into something, you listen to their problems. If you have the experience and skill set to kind of walk them through it and help them out, that's great. I mean, simple content marketing with a friend, I'm going to use that term just because that's what it is, but you're building a trust there. If they want to build something small out of wood, and you have all the woodworking tools, you have all the knowledge, and you kind of bring them along the journey, you show them how to do it, and the goal is for them to continue on after you. And that's kind of what I do with motorcycle training. So that's kind of like the basis and the mission of this meeting that I'm going to be talking about. And so then actually how to do it. I mean, there's multiple different ways, and we all know, like, email marketing, we know like videos, that's what I typically do. Long form, short form, Instagram reels, TikToks. You can even do like content marketing by sending out things in the actual mail, physical mail. You can create ebooks, you can create actual books that you have pamphlets for in your office that you can hand to potential clients that will just give them information. So there's different ways of doing it, and I'll be talking mainly about video because that's what I typically do, and even podcasts. I kind of dove into that a little bit. So I'll be talking about how to do it a little bit, what kind of equipment that you might want. But the main principles here, like once again, I try to make complex information very simple and within 30 minutes. And I'm not gonna be able to explain everything, but just good video, good audio, and have some experience to back it up, and just talk about what you've learned, your journey. And before you know it, somebody's going to be listening to it, watching it, and they're like, oh, I can plug myself in this section of their journey. And now I know where I'm at and I can continue following them. And it just builds trust. It builds trust. And so, yeah, I'll be going over why, how, and what it is. And hopefully somebody gets something out of it from my story, and they can start their own journey themselves. And going to try to make it simple. I'm simplifying it even now to where somebody can literally just pick up their iPhone and just talk, kind of like what we're doing right now.
Yeah. Well, no, I love it. I mean, you've made it clear to me and simple to me. You seem like a very process type of guy. Like you're very particular
Yeah.
in how you work, which
Yeah.
I kind of an attention to detail guy, which I appreciate. I mean, that's everything, systems and processes. So,
Yeah.
um, I guess that concludes the video. If you guys want to meet Dan and learn about his story, and I mean, obviously you heard it from him, it's going to be extremely valuable. I know a lot of our attendees, like you said, Dan, do want to do video. Drew, you can back me up on that as well.
Absolutely.
I think pretty much every freaking person I talk to, because I dallied in like YouTube stuff and people would see my videos and they're like, oh yeah, I want to start video. And I'm like, dude, it's not going to start until you pick it up and just put out this first stinky video out there. And it just sucks,
Yeah.
but it's what it is, you know?
Yeah.
So a lot of people want to do it. And I think it's going to be tremendous value um, to just meet with Dan and pick his brain. So Drew, do you have anything else?
No, I mean, I'm super stoked and I agree. I mean, at countless times, just to kind of reflect what you said, I've talked to so many people who are like, hey, I want to get into content marketing. I've actually had people come up to ask me and say, hey, can we get someone who's focused on content marketing as a speaker in the group. So there's definitely a need for it and a want for it, and I'm super stoked. The date of the next meetup is going to be May 31st from 5:30 to 8:30 at the Arizona Sands Club. The description below will have contact information for Cade and I as well. Potentially, Dan, are you open if we throw your contact info down there in the description?
Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah.
Perfect. So Dan's contact info as well. If you have any questions about where to go, how to find us, you can reach out to any of our phone numbers. They'll all be linked, as well as, it's a free event, 5:30 to 8:30. Super stoked. And you get to pick the brains and learn and meet. I mean, like I said, I bumped shoulders with Dan at this event, my own event or our event, right? And so you never know who you're going to meet, you never know who's going to show up, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
So,
and I want to encourage everyone too. If you are watching this, you guys have seen some of our videos, or maybe you've seen Dan's videos. This is a free freaking event. I mean, you have no excuse but to put, I mean, look, we're 3 weeks out. You have free access to Dan, free access to this event, good people. I mean, you can't get much better. We're meeting at the U of A. It's in proximity to anywhere in Southern Arizona. So there's no excuse. It's a free event. Come check it out. Come meet with Dan, and just come rub shoulders with people who are all like-minded. That's where you're really going to grow. Dan, thanks so much again for your time. We appreciate it greatly. We can't wait for this month.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely.
awesome.